Hello and welcome back. Today we are going to be reviewing the Chris Sabin and Kevin Nash 2-pack Rivals. This is the back of the packaging, and in more detail, the back of the packaging. A huge TNA logo up on top. Pause if you want to read everything there. Both Kevin Nash and Chris Sabin on the back, their hometown weight and finishers, the other action figure sets, and the Kevin Nash and Chris Sabin set. This was made by Marvel Toys. So with that being said, let's get these figures out of the packaging. And before we get into the figures, let's look at the stand. We have Kevin Nash and Chris Sabin on their respective sides, but you turn it around, and it's got a little carrier right here. In the carrier houses, sorry for the bad camera angle, it houses all of the materials to put these guys into nice fighting positions to put on the shelf. But with that being said, now let us talk about the figures. First, let's start with Chris Sabin. This figure very similar to his Series 1 figure where he had the X Division Championship. All of the articulation points are the exact same, but we will go over that whenever we go over the comparisons with Mattel and Jakks. Up next, we got the gargantuan Kevin Nash. This is one big figure indeed. And on camera, the skin tones may not match up for the torso and the neck piece, but in person they match up pretty well. With all the tattoos and the head sculpt being pretty on point. Now, let's get into the articulation comparisons. Starting off here with articulation, most of the Toy Biz figures, but not all of them, have butterfly joints, as you can see here in Chris Sabin. Chris Sabin does not have butterfly joints. Neither does Tommaso Ciampa or Rey Mysterio, the Mattel comparisons. Now, with articulation, though, Toy Biz knocked it out of the park, as you can see, with double-jointed elbows compared to Mattel's single-jointed elbows. Obviously, the Ultimate Edition figures have double-jointed elbows, but for the price of this figure retail, it's way better of a deal. Then Chris Sabin also having shoulder articulation and finger articulation, having Jakks-style rotator cuffs. For the thighs, double-jointed knees with molded-on knee pads, the kick pads, and toe articulation. Again, something that we haven't seen from Mattel until the Ultimate Edition figures. Now, with scale, the Mattel figures are almost spot on for the 6-inch scale. Tommaso Ciampa and Chris Sabin, in real life, both stand at 5'11". As we can see, Tommaso Ciampa stands slightly taller than Chris Sabin here, and Rey Mysterio stands at 5'6". So the Toy Biz or Mattel Toys Chris Sabin action figure sits a little short compared to these two, but it is close enough where it can pass. Now, let's move on to the Jakks comparison. Now, starting here with not only Jakks, but also Jazzwares, is a figure comparison. Jazzwares UFC figure, Daniel Cormier. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong, UFC fans. Here is supposed to be 5'11", like Chris Sabin. Both of these men standing almost identical in height, but you and I both know the UFC figures, the Jazzwares UFC figures, are just slightly too small from the 2020 series. And then you have the gargantuan Jakks figures. Jakks will always tower over almost every other company you have by making action figures. Chuck Liddell sitting at a solid 6'2", but he looks like he's 7 foot compared to these two short men. But now, let's head on to the Kevin Nash comparisons. Now with the Kevin Nash action figure. Kevin Nash is built at 6'10". Now, Braun Strowman is built at 6'8", and Luke Gallows or Doc Gallows is built at 6'7". Now, as you can see, Kevin Nash and Braun Strowman almost sit at the exact same height, while Luke Gallows and Kevin Nash sit a little bit. Luke Gallows is a little bit shorter, but the detail and the size of this figure definitely should not be ignored. Now on to the Jakks comparison. And now we have the two Jakks action figures for comparison. In the Mattel action figure comparison, I did forget to add in the points of articulation, Kevin Nash having almost more, I do believe more points of articulation than Chris Sabin. The head joint goes fully down, fully up, but double jointed elbows, a very, very small butterfly joint, if you can see it there. Ab crunch, weights twist, forearm twist, finger articulation, Jakks style thigh articulation, double jointed knees, a boot articulation in the pants, as you can see right up there. See that little line on the right leg? He has boot articulation for wearing pants and toe articulation. A lot of things that we wouldn't see until Mattel made their Ultimate Editions. The Great Khali standing in at 7'1", and Brock Lesnar standing in at 6'3". Obviously, the Jakks figures aren't properly scaled to 6-inch, and Kevin Nash still being 6'10", or built at 6'10". But as you can see, the Great Khali just towers over this Kevin Nash action figure, which Kevin Nash should not be short in any means compared to the Great Khali, but he should not be able to look him eye to eye either. So I think that the Toy Biz Kevin Nash is pretty accurate. And let's go on to the final review. I will say at the end of the day, this is almost a necessary purchase. So yes, there are better versions of both of these guys, but to get both of them in the same set is almost outstanding. To get both Kevin Nash and Chris Sabin in the same set, get both of their action figures with all the detail and articulation that comes with both of them, I feel like this is a need to buy. If any of you have any questions or like what you see, make sure to hit the subscribe button, comment down below, and turn on post notifications. If you did not like it, hit the dislike button, report me, do what you please, but make sure that you are at least enjoying the content, whether you want to troll on it or whether you think it's interesting. But I hope all of you have a lovely rest of your evening.